Sustainability is about meeting the needs of the present generations without compromising the ability of future generations. It's not necessarily about dramatically changing things overnight, it's a case of seeing what needs to be changed and doing it in a way that benefits people and the environment. Landfills, not exactly the prettiest. They're basically lazy exit points for the products that we create. I mean, as producers of goods, we really should be thinking about the exit point of our products. Like, where does it go? The harsh truth is, the clothes that do end up in landfill will stay there for over 200 years. Most of it will decompose over time while emitting methane, which is a greenhouse gas 3 times more toxic than carbon dioxide. We work with a recycling plant in Turkey. They take 800 tons of fabric waste every month, which would normally go into landfill. This is actually fabric from previous production runs, which has never been, it's never been washed, it's never been used, it's never been worn. It takes 20,000 litres of water to make 1 kilogram of cotton. To make 3 tons of cotton, you need 2.5 acres of land. And after all this, 33% of that yield is usable. The rest is just seeds and leaves and stuff. To give you an idea of what that means, that 800 tons of fabric waste every month takes 160 million litres of water, takes 6 months of 24-hour farming, and 1,976 acres of land. That's nearly 5 times the size of London. All that time, effort, space is just wasted. It just basically is rotting in landfill. And also, 95% of textiles that are already in landfill could actually be recycled, but most brands just give up and throw it into landfill, polluting the earth and wasting a hell of a lot of money. It's predicted by 2050 there'll be more plastic in the sea than fish. Plastic just doesn't disappear, it stays in our landfills and in our seas forever. Every plastic bottle that you've just bought and thrown in the bin will outlive you and generations after you. It doesn't need to be this way though. Plastic can actually be recycled into amazing things, one of which is actually fabric. I mean, these denims are actually made of fabric that have been recycled from plastic bottles. Plastic packaging is another issue. Many companies need to use plastic. We ourselves need to use poly bags to protect our garments in transit. However, there are alternatives. We use oxo-biodegradable polyethylene, which actually disappears after 365 days and leaves no harmful chemicals in the process. Leather gets a lot of bad press, and considering how it's normally produced, I completely understand why. The focus is normally on the death of the animal used to make the product, and while it's really important to think about this, it's also key not to forget the other issues that come with leather production. There's a lot of chemical used to make leather, which is really bad for the people making the leather, wearing the leather, and also really bad for the environment. On the other hand, it's a beautiful, durable material and is a huge source of employment. Over 3 million people are employed by the leather industry in India alone, with 100,000 of those people living in Chennai, which is where we make our leather. We use sheepskin, which has been sourced from small regulated farms that does not come from areas of deforestation. It's a byproduct, and we work closely with the source to use leather that's already available. We use vegetable dyed leather, which means we don't store our leather in a wet blue condition like a lot of brands do, and it's a lot of chemicals. Our leather is also 100% tested and approved for chrome free, which again means 0 chemicals. We're in the process of developing leather alternatives. For example, on the back of our denim, the faux leather patch is actually made of apple juice waste. We've got loads more things we're working on, but that's top secret. It normally takes a minimum of 2,720 litres of water to make 1 t-shirt. We use 1. You often hear about brands talking about cleaning their water and how great their water treatment centres are, but no one actually talks about what happens when that water is clean. Like, where does all that dirt go? This plant is 100 kilometres, it's huge. It's right in the centre of Chennai, and all the dye houses and all the tanneries, all their dirty water come into it. It goes through so many processes to clean the water, and you can see some of them here, and then boom, you got clean water. But what happens to all that dirt? It doesn't just vanish, it actually just goes here. That entire landfill is just full of dirt. 40% of it will naturally biodegrade, but the rest will stay there forever. This is why we're in conversation with a building company in Chennai to work with us to turn all that 60% of rubbish and just dirt into building supplies, so we can build something new with it. I believe that trend in itself is not sustainable. Generally speaking, anything that encourages a mass amount of production to meet with consumer demand has a risk of exploiting people and the environment. Any decision that we make, we need to understand who or what will be affected. I say this because when I design the collections, I do a domino effect diagram for every product I design, so I can see straight away the pros and cons for everything that I'm doing. I can see the impact, and I can also see how I can improve it. All of us have a carbon footprint, a measure of our energy and resource consumption. The more water we use, the more food we consume, and the more energy we use makes our carbon footprint higher. Some companies actually offset their carbon, which can be good, but maybe also could discourage them from actually making improvements. I've seen brands that have used cotton that's been harvested in North China, that's then been spun and dyed in Italy, that's then been flown to Cambodia to be woven, and then flown back up to North China to be made into garments. Before that fabric has even been cut, it has a higher carbon footprint than my grandmother. At Tobefrank, when we use new cotton, we use organic cotton that's been farmed in Istanbul. It's been processed, spun and finished all within the same postcode. We use less water, solar energy when we can, and we use existing modes of transport to keep our carbon footprint as low as possible. I started Tobefrank not just to create a brand that leads the way on limiting the damage that we do to the environment, but also the negative impact it can have on people and their communities. Sustainability is not just about the environment. People need to thrive and prosper for the environment to thrive and prosper. People make our clothes. That t-shirt you're wearing, someone farmed that cotton, spun that yarn, cut those pieces and sewed it together. Those people have friends and family like you and I, they've got, they go to work and come home like you and I, and they've got dreams and goals like you and I. But in many cases, they're not looked after, they're not treated well. This is why I started Tobefrank Foundation, to look after the people in our supply chain and also the surrounding communities. We pay living wages and above. We implement important training for personal and professional development. We have ongoing projects including women's empowerment in the workplace and gender equality initiatives. As well as this, we've got loads more projects that we're working on. We are not perfect. We are learning every day how to make the world a better place through fashion.